Go ninja, go ninja, go. Go ninja, go ninja, go. Go ninja, go ninja, go. Go, 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 go.
Metal Gear Rising is an insufferable, obnoxious bore, for reasons quite nearly too numerous to individually itemize. It's not just the morbidly overproduced radio rock that would have sounded dated in '99, cacophonously blaring over each progressively grating frame of this travesty. It's not just the fact that the control setup is effectively inside out. It isn't even the fact that half the fucking game consists of a ceaseless procession of QuickTime events operating under the wafer-thin guise of boss fights. It's the carousel of calamitous, basic design dyslexia that pervades each line of this game's half-cocked code. And by basic, I mean as basic as the fucking camera. I mean, who told the Chunderbrain fuckwad cameraman to spontaneously bolt behind my magnificent metalliferous ass in the middle of a sword fight? Who told this simpering dickbag to ride low enough to count the veins in Raiden's cybernetic nutsack during set-piece segments? Not that there's 5 adjacent minutes that couldn't be accurately described as a goddamn set-piece in Flashy Things Go Boom, the video game. Memo to Platinum Studios: if your camera system is incapable of circumnavigating a simple fucking pillar without spiraling into paroxysms of epilepsy, desist from shitting out boss fights that require your camera to be better than it is. The last thing I need when Speedy Gonzalez is skitter fucking around me like a tornado of death is to be simultaneously pulled into a compulsory shoot fight with the goddamn cameraman, and lo, those boss fights. Oh, sure, they're gratingly overblown. What luck then that they're utterly trivial and inexorable as well. I've seen fucking Mega Man bosses with a more elaborate narrative build. At least Sparkman got his own fucking intro sequence. Kojima Robot with Chun-Li thighs and Ballerina feet number 5224 just balls the fuck into frame with a rocket launcher and a grudge and expects anyone in the troposphere to give a shit. But get the fuck used to them, because as per standard Kojima logic, multiply their vapidity by your indifference, and that is the exact number of times you will be required to fucking fight them. By the end of this game, you will be up to your ever-loving eyeballs in sapless rollerblading robots, so make like an IGN field anchor, strap the fuck in, and go dead inside. What began as a coy flirtation between Assassin's Creed and Metal Gear has since spiraled into a full-blown incestuous orgy at this point, and nowhere is this more evident than with Metal Gear Rising's decision to hijack Altair's highly complex and inimitably challenging control setup of pushing the control stick forward and depressing the right trigger to instantly clear any conceivable obstacle in the known universe in the form of the Ninja Run. Darting through outer fucking space with lightning bolts coruscating from their calves being the ancient ninja's stealthy hallmark after all.
No problem. Stealth's my specialty.
Right.
And so long as we're feeling charitable, here's a freebie. If you're intent on indulging in the unpardonable game design sin of erecting invisible walls, consider holding the enemies to the same fucking standard. No one wants to sit idly, their thumb affixed to their ass, as hordes of nearsighted enemies rain mortar fire from invisible cover. Given a once-over, the story is shit. Upon proper inspection, it's shit with a spoon and fork for ease of ingestion. At the press of a button, it's the player's prerogative to activate an insultingly streamlined codec function to better imbibe in the omnipresent all-encompassing Kojima backstory, which out of necessity begs the question of what manner of Drano-swilling dunce would want to further steep themselves in this ripe anecdotal ass load. But let's call a gibbering retard a spade, shall we?
That's racist!
If observing Raiden's fully nude, homoerotic jaunt through a monochromatic murder fortress with a fistful of privates and a manic AI spouting future internet memes at you prior to a rocket launcher fight with a gaggle of Megazords didn't shake you off this series, what in the entirety of the Milky Way galaxy possibly fucking could? If lapping up this venal dreck constitutes narrative fulfillment for you, have the fuck at it. Here's a list of ethnic cliches. Dial in their codec frequency and be regaled with the Odyssean yarn of why war is bad, Kojima fanboy. Work your crank like a penile socket wrench as the coterie of Animu stereotypes exhaustively itemizes each individual particular of the adjoining story with blinking lights and sullen soliloquies highlighting the truly important bits as if we were all of us 5 fucking years old. And really, that's well well over half of my problem with this game as it is. In a superior stealth title, for example, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, you're told in the beginning to kidnap Hugo Lacerda. He's a criminal. He kidnapped an American. That's it. The remainder of the character development is satisfied via overheard conversations depicting him as a lush and a demoniac, fleeting emails exposing him as a braggadocious coward. The player fills those characterization holes with their own narrative putty and imagination, forging a stronger bond betwixt the player and the world in the process. But in Metal Gear?
Metal Gear.
Well, here's 20 minutes of cutscene prose divulging every butt-fucking one of Hugo Lacerda's fears, proclivities, and peccadillos. Here's his exact location, his face, his weakness, and while we're at it, here's a complete Lacerda family genealogy. And so long as we're in the neighborhood, have a tiresome, ham-fisted treatise about what Hugo Lacerda's meant to symbolize politically, and be sure to tell us exactly what the fuck Kojima would like us to think about this Dominican dipshit.
America's diseased, rotten to the core. There's no saving it. We need to pull it out by the roots. Wipe the slate clean. Burn it down!
Everything else though, Sam, the walking from point A to point B, that's all you, Studley. Enjoy the fuck out of your gray hallways, which isn't to say the game doesn't have its entertaining moments. Hell, there were times I was half tempted to recommend this game. I certainly enjoyed it more than Metal Gear Solid. At least instead of vainly attempting to be a stealth game and failing miserably, it Ginzu slices clean through the pretense and aspires to be a straight action game, and finds at least tepid success. But there's just too much outright incompetence on full display here all around to recommend in good conscience. The slipshod control setup, the Final Fantasy XIII straight as a fucking arrow shaft approach to level design, the Terrorizer magazine circa 1997 soundtrack, the characters with less depth than the cardboard boxes they hide in, and then there's just those batshit non-sequitur moments. The fact that the voice acting vacillates wildly between melodramatic and cartoonish before corkscrew moonsaulting into a full-on cartoon when Raiden spontaneously decides 3/4 of the way through the fucking game, no less, that he is now Skeletor.
I think it's time for Jack to let her rip.
And don't even get me started on the one-man shark jump that is Senator Armstrong.
7 minutes. 7 minutes is all I can spare to play with you.
I wouldn't recommend this game to the deaf and blind. Metal Gear Rising positively radiates shittiness. It's a graphical disappointment, a janky, unfocused mess, and in a year that's thus far started off with a bang, it's an unqualified fucking whimper. Take your sideways control schemes, your peacenik political posturing, and your Hamlet speeches, and cram them in your powdered metal ass. I'm Razor Fist God fucking Speed.
Poor performance indeed.